previous video, scaling. In many industries, ratios are used to scale measurements from one size to another, such as in construction and architecture. Then financial ratios. In finance, ratios are used to analyze financial statements, assess the performance of companies, and make investment decisions. Then practice and applications. Practice problems. To master these mathematical aptitude concepts, it's crucial to practice solving problems. Then real world applications, understanding fractions, time and distance and ratios is essential and various real life situations such as cooking industry, construction, finance and scientific research. Educational resources. Many educational websites and books provide detailed explanations and practice problems to help you improve your mathematical aptitude. Then proportion and percentage. Proportion is a mathematical concept that expresses the equality of two ratios. It shows that two ratios or fractions are equivalent. In a proportion, four numbers are compared in such a way that the product of the first and fourth numbers is equal to the product of the second and third numbers. Mathematical notation, the proportion can be expressed as A by B is equal to C by D, or A raised is to B is equal to C is to D, where A and D are called the extremes, B and C are called the means. Inverse proportion. Inverse proportion occurs when one ratio increases as the other decreases and vice versa. Direct proportion. Direct proportion occurs when both ratios increase or decrease together. It can be expressed as A by B is equal to C by D. Then constant of proportionality. In a direct proportion, the constant of proportionality K can be introduced, making the relationship A is equal to KB and C is equal to KD. Applications. Proportion is widely used in various fields including finance, calculating interest rates and investment returns. Science, determining the chemical reactions and solutions. Cooking, adjusting recipes based on the number of servings required. Geometry, understanding the properties of similar shapes. Then percentage. Percentage is a way to express a fraction or ratio as a portion of 100. It is a commonly used concept in mathematics and everyday life to represent parts of a whole. Mathematical notation. The percentage can be expressed as P percentage is equal to P by 100 into N, where P is equal to represent the percentage, P represent the portion of the fraction, N represent the whole of or the total. The next is about property. Percentage change. The percentage change is a measure of how a value has increased or decreased compared to its original value. Then percentage change. The percentage change is a measure of how much a value has increased or decreased compared to its original value. It is calculated as new value minus old value by old value into 100. Percentages are used in business and commerce to calculate discounts on prices and markups on costs. Markups on costs. Then interest rates. Percentages are used to express interest rates or loans, saving accounts and investments. Probabilities. Percentages are used to express the likelihood of events occurring in probability theory. Percentage is widely applied in various fields, including finance, calculating interest rates, discounts, taxes, and investment returns. Grading and calculating scores. Healthcare, expressing test results, medication dosages, and health risks. Retail, pricing, sales, and profit margins. Practice and applications. Practice problems. To master proportion and percentage, regular practice in solving problems is essential. This will help improve your ability to apply these concepts in various contexts. Then real-world applications. Understanding proportion and percentage is crucial in everyday life as well as in various professional fields like finance, business, and mathematics. Educational resources. Many educational websites and textbooks provide detailed explanation and practice problems. Then profit and loss. Profit and loss is a fundamental concept in economics and business that pertains to the financial outcome of an activity. It is used to determine the success or failure of a business venture, investment, or financial transaction. So, understanding profit and loss is vital in economics, finance, and entrepreneurship. Key terminology: cost price. The cost price is the initial amount spent to acquire a product or asset. It represents the total expenditure involved in producing or purchasing a product. Then selling price. The selling price is the amount at which a product is sold. It represents the income generated from the scale of a product. Profit is the financial gain made when the selling price of a product exceeds the cost price. It is calculated as profit. Profit is equal to selling price minus cost price. Then loss. Loss is the financial deficit incurred when the selling price of a product is less than the cost price. It is calculated as loss equal to cost price minus selling price. Then profit percentage. Profit percentage is the proportion of profit relative to the cost price expressed as a percentage. So loss is the financial deficit incurred when selling price of a product is less than the cost price. Then loss percentage. Loss percentage is the proportion of loss relative to the cost price expressed as a percentage. It is calculated as loss percentage. L percentage is equal to loss by cost price into 100. Loss by cost price into 100. Types of profit and loss. Gross profit. Gross profit is the profit earned after deducing the cost of goods sold from the total revenue. It provides an initial measure of a company's profitability. A net profit. Net profit, also known as the bottom line, is the profit remaining after deducing all expenses including taxes, interest and operating costs from the total revenue. And operating profit. Operating profit is the profit derived from a company's core operations excluding taxes and interest. Net loss. Net loss is the deficit incurred when a company's expenses exceed its revenue. Then profit and loss problems. Marked price and discount. Problems involving marked prices and discounts require calculating the final selling price after applying a discount. Then profit and loss percentages. These problems involve calculating profit or loss percentages based on cost and selling prices. And successive discounts. In cases where multiple discounts are applied successively, calculating the final selling price becomes more complex. Then partnership and sharing of profits. In business partnership, profit sharing arrangements need to be calculated based on agreed upon terms. Then application of profit and loss. Profit and loss analysis is crucial for businesses to assess their financial performance, making pricing decisions, plan for growth. Investment. Individuals and institutions analyze profit and loss to evaluate the returns on investment and financial decisions. Then budgeting. Personal financial planning involves considering profit and loss to manage expenses and savings. Practice and skill development. Practice problems. Solving a variety of profit and loss problems is essential to develop proficiency in these concepts. And financial literacy. Considering profit and loss is a key aspect of financial literacy, and there are numerous resources available to improve financial skills. And entrepreneurs and business professionals need a strong grasp of profit and loss concepts to make informed decisions and achieve success. Then interest and discounting. Interest and discounting. Interest is a financial concept representing the cost of borrowing money or the return on investment. It is an additional amount paid or earned on a principal amount, the initial sum of money over a certain period of time. Types of interest. Simple interest. Simple interest is calculated as a percentage of the principal amount for a specified period. It is computed using the formula simple interest, principal into rate into time by 100. Then compound interest. Compound interest takes into account the interest that accumulates on both the principal amount and the previously earned interest over time. It is calculated using the formula compound interest is equal to principal into 1 plus rate by 100 time minus 1. Applications. Banking. Banks pay interest on savings accounts and charge interests on loans, making interest central to the financial industry. Investments. Interest is earned by individuals and institutions on investments such as bonds, certificates of deposits, and stocks. Business finance. Companies use interest calculations, financial operations, investments, and debt management. Then discounting. Discounting is the process of determining the present value of future payments or cash flows. It involves adjusting the future value of money to its current value by applying a discount rate. Types of discounting. Present value. Present value is the current worth of future payments or cash flows. It is used in finance to assess the current value of investments and projects. Net present value is a method for evaluating the profitability of an investment by comparing the present value of expected cash flows to the initial investment. Then a discounted cash flow is a valuation method used in finance to determine the distinctive value of an investment by discounting expected future cash flows. Investment valuation. Discounting helps assess the attractiveness of investments by determining their present value. Businesses use discounting to make decisions about projects, investments, and the allocation for resources. Banks apply discounting techniques to assess the risk and return of loans and investment. Time value of money. Time value of money is the foundation concept that underlines both interest and discounting. It recognizes that the sum of money has different values at different points in time. Future money is worth less than the same amount of money today due to factors like inflation and opportunity costs. TVM formulas. Future value calculates the value of money at a future date. It is computed using the formula FV is equal to PV into 1 plus rate by time. Present value PV computes the current value of a future sum of money. It is computed using the formula P is equal to FV by 1 plus rate by time. Time calculates the number of periods required to reach a certain future or present value. It is computed using the formula FV by PV by log 1 plus rate. Applications. Investment decision making. Stocks, bonds, and real estate. Financial planning. TVM assists in retirement planning, budgeting, and saving for future goals. Loan and mortgage analysis. Banks and individuals use TVM to assess loan and mortgage terms. Practice and skill development. Practice problems, financial tools, and finance and investment courses. Then averages. Averages, also known as measures of central tendency, are fundamental statistical concepts used to represent a typical or central value within a data set. They provide a summary of the data's central location, making it easier to understand and analyze large sets of numbers. Types of averages. Mean. The mean, often simply referred to as an average, is calculated by summing up all the values in a data set and dividing by the total number of values. It represents the central value and is the most commonly used average. The formula for the mean. Mu is equal to delta x by summation x by n, where summation x is the sum of all values and n is the total number of values. Averages, also known as measures of central tendency. So, median. Next one, median. The median is the middle value when data is arranged in ascending or descending order. If there is an even number of values, the median is the average of the two middle values. It is less sensitive to extreme values and is useful when dealing with skewed distributions. Then mode. The mode is the value that appears most frequently in a dataset. A dataset can have no mode, one mode, or multiple modes. The mode is particularly useful for analyzing categorical data. Then uses of average. Data summary. Averages provide a concise representation of a dataset, making it easier to interpret and compare data. Comparison. Averages allow for easy comparison of data from different sources or time periods. Predictive analysis. Averages help in forecasting future values based on historical data. Decision making. Averages assist in making informed decisions, especially in business, economics, and public policy. Weighted averages. Weighted averages assign different weights to value in a data set. They are useful when same value carry more significance than others. The weighted average is calculated as like this. So, mean deviation and variance. Mean deviation. The mean deviation measures the average absolute difference between each data point and the mean. It is calculated as mean deviation modulus of xi minus mu by n summation, where xi is each data point, mu is the mean, n is the total number of values. Variance represents the average of the squared differences between each data point and the mean. It is calculated as variance is equal to sigma square is equal to xi minus mu square by n. Skewness and kurtosis. Skewness. Skewness measures the asymmetry of distribution. Positive skew indicates a tail on the right side of the distribution, while negative skew indicates the tail on the left side. Then kurtosis. Kurtosis measures the distribution peakedness. High kurtosis indicates a sharper peak, leptokurtic, while low kurtosis indicates a flatter peak. That means platykurtic. Mode of grouped data. When data is grouped into classes or intervals, the mode can be determined by identifying the class with the highest frequency. Practice and skill development. Practice problems. Solving a variety of problems including mean, median, mode and weighted average is essential to develop proficiency. Then statistical software. Using statistical software and spreadsheets can facilitate complex average calculations and data analysis. Statistical courses. Enrolling in statistics courses and educational programs can enhance understanding and proficiency in these concepts. Averages are fundamental statistical tools used to summarize data and assess central tendencies. They provide valuable insights for decision making, data analysis, and forecasting. A strong understanding of mean, median, mode, and weighted average is essential. Then logical reasoning. Logical reasoning, also known as critical thinking or deductive reasoning, is a cognitive skill that involves the ability to identify, analyze, and evaluate arguments or statements for their validity and soundness. It is a crucial skill in academia, problem solving, and decision making across various fields. Elements of logical thinking. Premises. Logical reasoning begins with premises, which are statements or facts that serve as the foundation of an argument. Premises can be true or false. Then inference. Inference is the process of drawing conclusions from the given premise. A valid inference is one that logically follows from the premises. Then validity. An argument is valid if the conclusion. An argument is valid if the conclusion logically follows from the premise. Validity ensures that if the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true. Inferences are the process of drawing conclusions from the given premise. A valid inference is the one that logically follows the premises. An argument is valid if the conclusion logically follows from the premise. Validity ensures that if the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true. Soundedness. An argument is sound if it is valid and all of its premises are true. A sound argument is not only logically valid but also based on true premises. Then types of logical reasoning. Deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning involves making specific conclusions based on general premise. It is the process of moving from a general to the specific. For example, all humans are mortal. That is a premise. Socrates is a human. Premise, therefore Socrates is mortal. That's the conclusion. General to specific. Then inductive reasoning. That is deductive reasoning. Okay. Then inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning involves making general conclusions based on specific observations. It is the process of moving from a specific to the general. For example, all observed swans are white. That's a specific statement. Observation, therefore all swans are white. And then abductive reasoning. Abductive reasoning is a form of inference where the best possible explanation is determined from the available evidence. It is used in scientific discovery and problem solving. For example, given the evidence of footprints and fur, the best explanation is that there was been on in the area. And critical thinking analysis. Critical thinking involves breaking down complex problems or arguments into their components to understand the underlying structure. Evaluation, it involves assessing the validity of arguments, the quality of evidence. Next, critical thinking analysis. Critical thinking involves breaking down complex problems or arguments into their components to understand the underlying structure. And evaluation, it involves assessing the validity of argument, the quality of evidence, and the soundness of conclusions. Then synthesis. Critical thinking also involves synthesizing information from various sources to form well-reasoned judgments or solutions. Then logical fallacies. Logical reasoning also involves recognizing and avoiding common logical fallacies. Fallacies are errors in reasoning that can lead to incorrect or invalid conclusions. Examples of fallacies include ad hominem attacks, attacking a person instead of the argument. Ooh, that is a fallacy. Attacking the person instead of the argument. Ad hominem attacks. Ad hominem attacks. Attacking person instead of the argument. Ad hominem attacks. circular reasoning, using the conclusion as a premise, and false dilemmas, presenting only two options when more exist. False dilemmas. Then applications. Academia. Logical reasoning is essential in academic disciplines such as philosophy, mathematics, and computer science. Then problem solving. Logical reasoning is central to effective problem solving, whether in engineering, business, or daily life. Science. In scientific approach, logical reasoning is used to form hypotheses, design experiments, and draw conclusions. Then law and justice. Legal professionals rely on logical reasoning to build cases and make legal arguments. Then practice and skill development. Practice exercises, regularly solving logical reasoning exercise and puzzles help develop the skill. Critical thinking courses. Courses on critical thinking and logic can provide structured learning and practice. Debates and discussions. Engaging in debates and discussions logical reasoning logical reasoning by requiring participants to defend or challenge arguments. Then understanding the structure of arguments. An argument is a logical structure comprising one or more premises, which are statements or reasons, and a conclusion, which is the statement the premises are intended to support. Understanding the structure of arguments is essential for critical thinking, analysis, and effective communication. So, components of an argument. Premises. Premises are statements presented as evidence or reasons. They form the foundation of an argument, are intended to provide support for the conclusion. Premises can either true or false. The conclusion is the statement that the premise aims to support. It is the central point of the argument. The conclusion should follow logically from the premise. Then identifying arguments. Not all statements are arguments. Some statements are merely expressions of opinion, descriptions, or reports or facts. To identify an argument, look for the presence of premises and conclusion. Types of arguments. Deductive arguments. Deductive arguments aim to provide conclusive proof for the truth of the conclusion. If the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true. For example, all humans are mortal. Premise: Socrates is a human. Premise: therefore, Socrates is a mortal. Then inductive argument. Inductive argument provides support for the probability of the conclusion. This is just that the conclusion is likely but not guaranteed to be true based on the premise. For example, our observed signs are white, observed, therefore all signs are white. Then abductive argument. Abductive argument aims to provide the best possible explanation for the available evidence. Because they are often used in scientific discovery and problem solving. For example, given the evidence of footprints and fur, the best explanation is that a bear has been laid. Then evaluating arguments, valid versus invalid. A deductive argument, an argument is valid if the conclusion necessarily follows from the premise. If the conclusion does not necessarily follow, the argument is invalid. Validity does not guarantee the truth of the conclusion. Sound versus unsound. A deductive argument is sound if it is valid and all of its premises are true. Two sound arguments are both logically valid and based on true premises. Evaluating arguments. Valid versus invalid. In a deductive argument, an argument is valid if the conclusion necessarily follows from the premise. If the conclusion does not necessarily follow, the argument is invalid. So validity does not guarantee the truth of the conclusion. Then sound versus unsound. A deductive argument is sound if it is valid and all of its premises are true. Sound arguments are both logically valid and based on true premises. Then strong versus weak. In deductive argument, an argument is strong if the premise provides strong support for the conclusion, making it likely. A weak argument provides weak support, making the conclusion less likely. Then cogent versus uncogent. And in deductive argument is cogent if it is strong and the premises are true. Cogent arguments are both logically strong and based on true premises. I'm not sure about the pronunciation of the word. Then identifying implicit premises. Sometimes arguments may not explicitly state all their premises. Implicit premises are unstated but necessary to make the argument valid or sound. Understanding implicit premises is crucial for the complete evaluation of an argument. Practice and skill development. Analyzing argument. Regularly practice identifying, analyzing, and evaluating arguments in various contexts to develop the skill. Critical thinking courses, enroll in courses, then debate and discussion. Participate in debate and discussions. Argument forms. Argument forms. Argument forms represent the structure or template of valid arguments. They provide a framework for constructing logically sound arguments, and understanding them is crucial for critical thinking and logical analysis. Below, we will explore some common argument forms. Modus ponens, affirming the antecedent. If P, then Q. Premise. P premise, therefore Q conclusion. Explanation. Modus ponens asserts that if a conditional statement, if P then Q is true and the antecedent is true, then the consequent must also be true. Antecedent and consequent. If it rains, the ground will be wet. It is raining, therefore the ground is wet. Then modus tollens, denying the consequent. If P, then Q, not Q premise, therefore not P. Conclusion. Explanation. Modus tollens asserts that if a conditional statement, if P then Q is true and the consequent Q is false, then the antecedent must also be false. Then example, if he studies P, he will pass the exam Q. He did not pass the exam, not Q. Therefore, he did not study, not P. Hypothetical syllogism. If he studies, he will pass the exam. If he did not pass the exam, therefore he did not study. So, hypothetical syllogism, that's not possible. Sometimes some other factors may be there. Hypothetical syllogism. If P, then Q. And if Q, then P. Therefore, if P, then R. That's the conclusion. Hypothetical syllogism combines two conditional statements to form a new conditional statement. If P implies Q, Q implies R, then P implies R. That is hypothetical syllogism. If it is sunny, then the picnic will be held. If the picnic is held, then the people will bring food. Therefore, if it's sunny, people will bring food. Then disjunctive syllogism. Elimination of the disjuncts. P or Q, not P, therefore Q. Disjunctive syllogism asserts that if it's known that one disjunct P or Q is false, not P, the other disjunct must be true. It is either raining or snowing. It is not raining, therefore it is snowing. Then categorical syllogism. All men are mortal. Premise. Socrates is a man. Premise. Therefore Socrates is mortal. Conclusion. Categorical syllogism. Therefore Socrates is mortal. Conclusion. Categorical syllogism is based on statements about categories. All men are mortal. They consist of two premises that lead to a categorical conclusion. When all cats are mammals, Whiskers is a cat, therefore Whiskers is a mammal. Then enthymeme. An enthymeme is a partially stated argument that relies on the audience to supply the mixing premise. It's a common form of argument used in everyday communication. It is a weekday, unstated premise. Therefore, I have to go to work. Conclusion. In this case, the missing premise is I go to work on weekdays. Then reductio ad absurdum. Reduction to the absurd. Assume not to be. Deduce a contradiction. Q and not Q. Premise. Therefore, P. Conclusion. Explanation. Reductio ad absurdum is the form of argument that demonstrates the truth of a proposition by assuming its neglection, not P, and showing that it leads to a contradiction. Example, assume there are no prime numbers, deduce that one is not a prime number and one is prime as a contradiction, therefore there are two prime numbers. Then Contraposition. If P, then Q. Therefore, if not P, then not Q. Contraposition establishes that if P implies Q, then the absence of Q implies the absence of P. It is a cat, then it is a mammal. Therefore, it is not a mammal, then it's not a cat. Understanding these argument forms are crucial for critical thinking, analyzing, and constructing solid and valid arguments, whether in academic, professional, or everyday contexts.